Nurah Speaks is a weekly podcast that tugs at the soul and consciousness of the Black community. With show topics such as youth empowerment, education, women's impact, and civic engagement, Nurah Speaks challenges the listener to not only join the movement, but be the movement. On the show, you'll learn from insightful guests who have demonstrated capacity in these fields and more, and I'm your host, Nurah Muhammad. Welcome to the show. Welcome to another episode of the Nurah Speaks podcast. I am your host, Nurah Muhammad, and I am so happy to be with you again in another week, and so much has happened in a week's time. We've had the recent untimely taking of life of our brother George Floyd in Minneapolis at the hands of the local police department there. We've had the recent event of a Caucasian woman in Central Park calling the police on a black man and trying to instigate law enforcement officers to handle him as if he was someone who was aggressive and threatening her and her dog. And, you know, in the face of this, in the wake of this, there's so much emotion, there's so much energy, there's so much outrage, there's so much disgust, and justifiably so. You know, we are frustrated, angry. We resent what's happening to us and what has happened to us, and we resent what's going to happen to us tomorrow into the future. And I respect what we feel. I appreciate those who have gone out and participated in marches and protests and other kinds of action to show the disdain and the frustration with what's happening. And, for me, I believe, because I have this platform and because I've been fortunate and blessed to have you as an audience, to have a voice that folks want to listen to, some. I know that I have to be responsible with my message. I have to be responsible with what I post on social media. I have to be responsible with what I would put on my website. I have to be responsible for the message that is going to come to you via the Nurah Speaks podcast. So to that end, I have not been very quick or eager to jump on the microphone, to share my thoughts, to express what is going on for me personally. I'm a black woman in North America. I have a husband and sons. And so certainly you can infer that I too am affected by this emotionally, frustration and concern for all, black people, men, boys, women, children. But I still know that I have to be measured and responsible with what I say, with what I do, with what I share on social media, and what's being delivered to you as an audience. Because at this time, our people, we're looking for guidance. We need guidance. We need leadership. And as someone who has this microphone, I know that it is my responsibility to be dignified, to be civilized, and to be truthful. And the truth can sting some. The truth will inform all. And so that is the purpose here of this show: to deliver the truth, to share information that's just not going to inspire us to feel good, but that's going to inspire us to take action. And I know that we take risks when we tell the truth. We can miss out on opportunities when we tell the truth. And some think that the truth should be dimmed. Some think that the truth should be delivered in a way that is manageable to all. But that is not my role, to deliver the truth so it's manageable to all, so all are comfortable with it. I want to tell the truth, and I do my best to choose the words that are most precise to express what is in my mind. I strive to be respectful to all at all times, respect myself, respect my family and my community. Yet I am still going to always tell the truth with whatever risks that comes to me. I am always going to tell the truth. And, in so many ways, I don't need to record another podcast episode to talk about what's happened in Minneapolis. You can go to Nurah Speaks and, the last episode, action is measured, or action is the defining measure of a revolution. That talks about what's happened to our brother and to many other brothers and to many sisters and to many families, to many communities across this country. And you can dig into so many other episodes of Nurah Speaks because, the message doesn't change, or the truth or the foundation of the message doesn't change, depending on the circumstance, depending on the time. The delivery of it may be adjusted and modified based on those specific circumstances. However, you will always find a foundation of personal accountability in the message of Nurah Speaks. And so as I am reflecting, as you too are reflecting on the events that's taken place recently, and I know that there's so much material to wade through. I know so many people are making videos, and the news is constantly streaming. There are others that you listen to and that you seek out for guidance. So I want to let you know that I appreciate you taking time to hear what it is that I have to say on this and other issues, because it is a privilege to have your ear. It is a privilege for me to have your time. And I do not take that very lightly, and I'm grateful for that. So as I am reflecting on the events of what has transpired and reflecting on much of what I'm seeing across social media, in the reporting that's happening, because, social media isn't just for entertainment purposes only. It is a way, a vehicle for us to receive information, to stay up to date on current events. And I'm seeing many of our people, Black people, pushing those white colleagues, white associates, white friends to speak out regarding what's happening. We call them allies, and we say, well, we want you to speak out to your white brethren, those who are who share the thinking of someone who would take a life like that officer did in the taking of the life of George Floyd, and those who participated, those who were bystanders. We want you, this is what many of our people are saying, we want you to step up and speak out as those who have alliances with us, those who are our friends. And I would suggest that is that's misguided energy. It would be great if they did, but we don't need to take our time to influence others to act. We have to influence ourselves to act, and not just to act blindly because we have energy, because we have this emotion, but to act strategically, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later on. But we don't need allies. What we need today, what we needed yesterday, and what we're going to need tomorrow is we need brotherhood, meaning the justice that we want, the opportunities that we want, to enjoy the privileges of citizenship and respect of humanity that we want. That's going to come from us and what we do. And we elevate others over ourselves when we are pushing so-called allies to speak out. Now, what they do is their business. It would be nice for them to do so, but brother and sister, it would be nice for us to take responsible and measured action so that we can create the change that we want. And we have to give the energy and effort that is going to equal the change that we say that we want and that we need. We can't keep waiting for others to stand up and to speak the loudest on issues that affect us the most. That is a misguided energy. And we keep elevating others and their responsibility, or what responsibility we think that they have. We elevate that over the responsibility that we have for ourselves. So first, I would say, stop looking for allies. Look for brotherhood. When you have brotherhood, when I have brotherhood, then what the allies do or don't do, it doesn't matter and it doesn't affect us. The greatest impact that we can make is the impact that we make together as a community. Whether we disagree or agree on every single issue, on every single agenda, we have to have brotherhood first. And that is key. The second point that I want to make is just be cautious about acting when you're heavily laden with emotions. Emotions can be like smoke. And, when there's a fire, people don't die as much because of the fire. It's the smoke. It's the inhalation of smoke. Because once you have inhaled smoke, it occupies space in our lungs. It occupies space where air can't get in. So emotions can be a barrier to logic, just like smoke can be a barrier to breathing air. And when we're acting out of emotions and we are not operating logically, then we can harm ourselves and we can harm others. And so I would suggest, yes, we have to act, but we cannot let our emotions lead our actions. Our emotions can be fuel for our actions, but they can't lead our actions. We have to lead with strategy. We have to lead with forethought because lives are at stake. And while folks are out there in the street and they're expressing their disdain for what's happening to us, know that there are others who are also in that crowd who are not there because they share in your pain and because they share in your agony and because they share in your mission. There are folks, as I said in the previous episode, that are in these crowds because they intend to agitate, because they intend to instigate. And these crowds can be a very dangerous place to be. And I always think safety first for our people when it is appropriate. So we have to think, what is going to be our vehicle to get justice? What is going to be our vehicle to get equality? What is going to be our vehicle to experience freedom in this country? Like I said, I hate to keep saying, like I said last time, but I said this. Protesting in March. Look, if a march could free us, if a march was to give us equality, nobody has marched more than the so-called American Negro here in North America. No one has marched more than us, although others have marched after we've marched and attained their equality and attained opportunity for themselves and greater opportunity that we have after modeling the movements that we have. We still, in 2020, are marching for freedom, justice, and equality, and it is evading us because that is not the right vehicle that we should employ to achieve freedom, justice, and equality. Backing up, the vehicle is our brotherhood. It is not relying on someone else to create an opportunity for us to be free, for someone to create an opportunity. And when I say someone, I'm talking about those Caucasians who are in power, whether they strive to operate with freedom, justice, and equality, or whether they don't. We're looking for them to create these opportunities, to give us freedom, to give us the rights to vote, or to engage in fair commerce, or to engage in home ownership. We're looking for someone else to give us something still in this country. Well, that's not the vehicle. The vehicle is looking to one another. And I know that that might seem like a strange or a foreign concept to many because we don't have most of us don't have the practice of relying on other Black people to get our needs met. But if we relied on one another with the same heavy weight that we relied on those who are in positions of power in this government to satisfy our needs and wants, then we could have what we want overnight. We could transform our communities and we can cause others to deal with us a lot differently. But we keep resorting to the same tactics to get different results. And that's not wise and that's not strategic. So we have to put our emotions to the side. We have to sit down and think logically about what we need. And we have to work collectively to achieve those ends. I don't want to be, long in this episode, because what needs to be said has already been said. But I do want to let you know that I'm with you. I'm with you in this frustration, in this pain, and in this anguish. I don't want to see our people continue to get hurt, but I wonder how much more are we going to take until we say, wait, what we've been doing isn't working. Let's do something different. There are other options that most of us have not employed to achieve the results that we want. And me, I am a Muslim, and I'm in the Nation of Islam, and I represent a community that is operating in unity, striving to do everything that we can so that we can create the freedom, justice, equality, and opportunities for ourselves. Now, I'm not suggesting this isn't a religious message, and I'm not suggesting that everybody who listens to this should be Muslim, join the Nation of Islam, or think exactly like I do. But I will say that operating together with those who want the same for you that you want for yourselves in unity has been effective. And I want to be effective. I don't want to just be loud. And I strive never to be loud. I might be energetic, but I strive never to be loud, because what I also see is that the folks who are the loudest in the crowd are often the least effective in the field, where the work is most necessary to improve the conditions of our people. So I'm not saying that we all have to think like Nurah thinks. We all have to do everything that Nurah does. However, what I will say is I have been fortunate enough to try to put my trust in other Black people who have put their trust in me. And we have beautiful, beautiful results. And so I say it may sound hard. It may sound impossible because we've been trained and conditioned to operate against each other instead of with each other. However, if we switch up that mindset, then the revolution that we want is right within our own reach. So I would suggest you try it. We have to hold ourselves accountable. We have to hold ourselves accountable more so than we're trying to hold the officer who took the life of our brother accountable, the mayor of that city or your city. We have to hold ourselves accountable to get to reach our final destination, to achieve the goals that we should have for ourselves. And also, we should learn from history. If we're not going to learn from history, and you have heard this before, we are doomed to repeat it. So while we're watching the burning in these cities, doesn't it look familiar? I lived through the LA riots. I wasn't in the LA riots, but I was alive and I was conscious enough to understand what was going on in LA. And then those who were in the LA riots or lived to see it, they remember the riots of the 60s when King was assassinated. So we are watching history repeat itself because we are not doing anything different. We have to stop relying on others. This is something that I've said repeatedly. We have to be strategic. We have to look inside. We have to look internally. And, I feel your pain. I am with you. There have been marches and protests and folks raising their voice. And I'm even watching reporters of corporate networks, corporate-owned, corporate-run networks, and seeing these Black correspondents saying truthful things that I have not heard Black correspondents say before. And I appreciate those words. I appreciate Black men who are in positions of power talking about what they've experienced in terms of racism at the hands of Caucasian people. And the talk is good. But I want to see the change. I want to see the change in our actions and our behaviors. I want to see that change. And just one last point I will make before I jump off. I want to say we have to stop looking to qualify the reasons why we should be treated with dignity. We say about the brother that was harassed in the park, we say, well, he was Harvard educated. He was a bird watcher, so he must really be civilized. So we say things like, well, he's the perfect person that shouldn't be treated as if he's a thug. Well, I would say if there was a thug walking through the park who said, ma'am, could you leash your dog? He too, or she neither should have the cops called because she or he is Black. So we have to stop thinking that because somebody has a certain pedigree, a certain job, I'm thinking this of ourselves. Well, I'm a college graduate. Why would you treat me like this? If I was homeless, I shouldn't be treated like this. If I was a thug, I shouldn't be treated like this if I'm not doing anything wrong. So stop looking to qualify ourselves, because this is us still looking for validation. We shouldn't have to issue a validation for us to have our human rights honored and respected. The fact that I'm a person, that should cause others to respect me. But the validation that we're looking for is shows our own personal, and I mean personal as a Black community. It shows our own lack of self-worth, that we think that it's right to validate or seek validation because of somebody's education, because of where somebody was raised, because I drive a BMW, or I was driving my Mercedes and I got pulled over. Well, you're still Black. And that is the common denominator for the mistreatment of all of us. It doesn't matter where we're from. It doesn't matter what schools we went to. It doesn't matter the type of credit card or the type of debt that we have. You know, the common denominator is that we're Black. So let's be strategic. Let's be thoughtful. Let's be organized. Let's operate in brotherhood. That is the vehicle that's going to create the change that we need. I want to thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Nurah Speaks podcast. Until next time, stay in peace. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Nurah Speaks podcast. Be on the lookout for a new episode coming at you fresh next week. And as always, if you want to learn more about me and the work that I do, visit my website, nurahmuhammad.com. Or if you have a listener question, email me at info@nurahspeaks.com. You can also follow the Nurah Speaks podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Nurah Speaks Podcast. I'll be sure to include links in the show notes. If this show has value to you, please subscribe, rate, and review, and share it with family and friends. And be sure to check out previous episodes. And remember, don't just join the movement, be the movement. Stay in peace.